There's just 1 minute to showtime.
The engines are on.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
When they wrote up the systems and the rule set that we use, did working people get to write a line? What class of men on pen and paper jotted down their clues? With capital, the heart of their design. When 90 million want a thing, but some shareholders say no, which class of people get to have their way? The people read the fine print, say that this thing has got to go, and we'll start writing a new contract here today. Don't you know that hundreds will work and one man keeps the money? They don't think they gotta tell us why. When they say the new social contract, all the bosses will be gobsmacked and everyone will want a sign. Oh, yeah, everyone will want a sign.
All right. It always takes a minute to get everything going. So thank you. Thank you for your patience with how we have to make things work with our American internet. We were just discussing the fact that Jared's going to try again to play a show or play a song for us later that he has pre-recorded. And this is something that's had him tearing his hair out quite a bit because he just never, something always seems to happen with this. But we know that you understand our sorrow in dealing with technical problems. So thank you for joining us today. We are glad to have you with us. I am Nicolette, and I'm joined as ever by my illustrious and talented co-host, Mr. Mayor Jared.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody.
Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on where you are, where you are watching us from. We are live. We sometimes get questions about that. So yes, we are live. That's a thing that's really happening. I don't need to hold up a newspaper. You just have to take my word for it. Proof of life situation. So we... let's see. When we try to figure out what we're going to talk about, for some reason Tuesday always seems to be a day where I don't know if it's a Tuesday and Friday. Like Friday they want to slip news in on the weekend so that you're not paying attention to it. Tuesday's like we're gonna say something loud on a Tuesday and see what happens. We're gonna talk about a little bit about the what we could scrape off the shit brick of news, of concentration of news, including the very smart, very genius, very according to plan tariffs that are going on. And the very smart, very genius, very according to plan stock market crashes that it resulted in. So we'll unpack that a little bit. I think Jared's going to have some information about that for us. And I'm just going to nod my head a lot because I'm really not that great at economics, like on explaining them. I can understand the words that are being said to me, but I get a little bit lost because then I start getting into like numbers. Yes. Are they real? So I'm not great in that avenue. That's not my area of expertise. So if anything is, I will be listening to him as well as you. On a lot of this, and we'll talk about the current events that are making everyone sad and what's going on. The most current event I heard just right before air is that there's now, whether or not this happens, I'm not sure it will, but there's now been a proclamation. RFK Jr. has said he is removing the fluoride from the water supply, and we've talked about before on the show that. When without the influence of other people like Musk, but Trump can sometimes be bullied or blunders into doing the right thing for the wrong reasons. This sounds like something that is, even though I can't imagine him actually knowing what he's talking about, being that RFK Jr. is like one of the stupidest people on the planet and should not be in a position of authority on anything, not even his own self. He should probably have a minder. But the idea of taking the fluoride out of the water supply is actually a good one. It's in all of our tooth care supplies at this point. We're not, that's something that's been going on for many, many decades. Maybe at the time that it was initially started, it was a good idea, but there's way too much of it in the water, and it's not really a conspiracy type of a thing. It's not good to have too much of anything. So we get, mega doses of it, and it's very questionable stuff. So whether or not this happens and there's any kind of legal issues, I don't know, big fluoride might have an issue with this. But
I still don't fully understand the like you're saying big fluoride. I'm like, who does benefit from just keeping because this is America. They don't just give you shit for free. It's like,
Right.
what's happening? Like, there's not like, hi, we put some medicine and we're giving it to you just to be nice.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't believe that at all from you.
Exactly.
I believe it's possible for a human to do that, but in the U.S., when has that ever been what's happening? Oh, we just did it to be nice. Oh, thanks.
Yeah, thanks. I can see why. I don't have a big, history of it. I was just hearing about it right before air, so I didn't wiki it or anything before coming on to talk about it. But it's been going on for many, many decades. I'm not exactly sure when it started, but probably when it started. Probably when it started, you were looking at a much more rural America, much less connected America that could benefit potentially from that kind of a thing. But it's always the big thing about it's like tooth decay. Like I don't think America gives a shit about your tooth decay, right? Like, and I know the dental industry would like you to get decayed teeth, but now fluoride's in pretty much you have to look for non-fluoride products.
That's really it. It made some sense back in the day when people I guess didn't have access to whatever, but it's like giving out dental care is not a thing the United States does. So what is this?
Even then, it's not like we used to have some sort of honest government or something. Even then, it seems like there was something behind that in a bigger picture.
That was the era of just straight up doing experiments on people and not telling them about it.
Right. And then also, I just don't agree with not having a choice. Isn't like some anti-vaxxing thing. It's just like if it's in your fucking water, like what are you gonna do, right? So it's like, yeah, if I want to have it, I will use a product with it in it. I will choose to do that. And now that not that we have any more greater access to dental care, most insurance don't even cover it at this point.
My teeth are shitty as hell. I brush them every day. I still have I'm fighting cavities nonstop. What's this fluoride doing for me?
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. I've got the most stupid, complicated tooth care regimen. Like that, I'm just like I'm in the bathroom for like 10 minutes twice a day. It's just not like oh that's so much time or whatever to give your teeth. But I'm just saying, like, you have to go to really great lengths to keep your teeth good, and that's like apparently with the fluoride in the water. Like I drink nothing but water, but water. Sorry. Anyway, the point is yes, it probably comes from an era of experimenting on people. There are some studies that have been done that say it's very bad for developing brains and for children. And I think an overload of any kind of mineral or vitamin is probably bad for a developing child, whether or not they're of dubious report or not. And again, you should have the option, to decide if that's something that you want in your diet or supplementally or whatever. So even though I don't agree with him, RFK Jr. on like anything at all, and he should not be in charge of anything or dispensing medical advice whatsoever, I do agree that we have at least advanced in society enough that there is an opportunity here to not have to have something in the water that we didn't ask for. We have to have room for the microplastics. So so there's your headline, your topical headline for this Tuesday. Shout out to the chat, to Are You Time Traveler 2, one of our regular and oldest viewers and supporters. Thank you, and we're glad to have you. If you want to jump in and say anything, if you're watching and your question, comment, just want to say hi. We try to reach out as much as we can. Okay, so that's where we are right now. We will see if this plays out. We will see what happens. I'm not really sure who really is I know there have to be like major supporters of keep the fluoride in the water. but I'm not super sure like if we're going to see great big pushback from this or where this is going to go. That's today's headline. So I'm going to quiet myself for a minute and turn things over to Mr. Jared. I think we're going to learn some stuff about some tariffs and economy.
Man, we're gonna do our best. That's the thing. Talking about any of these things, it's if you ever watch, if you're listening to this and going like, man, and you'll hear me say things or you hear us say things like, we're not experts. Like basically just reaffirm we don't really know what we're talking about. And you're like, well, why do you guys even do a show? And it's because
we're angry.
I'm trying to make the show that I wish I could go watch. Like one thing that we have absolutely learned over the last however many years of paying attention to our three flavors of state media, be it CNN, MSNBC, or Fox News,
Yes.
is that like I don't know. I don't think they're lying 100% of the time, but it's like with the fluoride thing. I'm not going to get out and jump up in front of everybody. Hey, everybody, fluoride's evil and it's giving your children autism or whatever the hell.
Right.
Like I don't know if I don't think it's that, but like. I can't provide a good explanation as to what its purpose is. I know what its stated purpose is, but like we just went over, the U.S. is not the kind of country that's like handing out healthcare just to be really nice. We aren't just like, oh, let us help the children. Like that's not a thing that we do as a nation. So I would love to know what the hell is actually going on with fluoride. If it's is it secretly horrible and bad for you? Are all my teeth gonna fall out because I'm drinking fluorinated water, etc.? Is it gonna give me cancer? Et cetera,
Right.
et cetera. So when I'm going over these we're about to look at some economic charts, and I'm about to do my absolute best to give a to give an explanation that makes some kind of sense, because I'm kind of learning this in real time. I'm reading books. Go read some Michael Hudson, everybody. Michael Hudson. When I heard that name, I'm like, oh, I think I know that from somewhere, and I was wrong. I'd never heard about Michael Hudson. He's a really old guy. He's an economist. He's not a Marxist or a socialist, whatever, but he does cite Marx all the time and Lenin, because he's just like, oh, he's the guy who knows the most about this, blah blah blah.
Right.
It's just really more of a mark of how our economic. If you go to learn economics, go get an economics degree today in America with like the traditional Chicago School of Economics style. Not that you have to go to Chicago. That's just like where the method of thinking came from. It's kind of what we all run off of now, I guess, which came out of frickin'. What's the Europe one? It's where Mozart was from, where the Venetian school of of economists, blah blah blah. But if you learn that style of economics, you aren't really learning how money works or how economies work or how markets work. You're learning how they are, quote, supposed to work. So you learn off of this base perfect model. It's almost like you go to a religious college and you study the idea of what heaven could be and how many angels on the head of a pin, et cetera, and you are supposed to reject evidence from the real world. Like it's one of the only, quote, sciences where you are like proofing is just not a thing. Like any other kind of science, you go through, you have an experiment, the experiment is replicated, you look at results, are the results consistent, and then you can prove or disprove whatever. In economics, you're always just comparing it to this ideal that can never be and has never been. Like the markets that you study, how they're supposed to act, have never existed, and so far and as far as we know, will never exist. But that's the ideal you're working towards as a Chicago School of Economics classical economist, the kind that's going to get on. No, I'm sorry, classical economics is a whole different thing. I'm throwing around words. I'm going to use words wrong. I'm sorry. Please correct me if you
just
know
to
better
jump
than
in
me.
there on the kind of I don't really get this either. I think that might be what is confusing to at least to me or to people, because we're talking about a system based on what ifs. We're not really necessarily scaling it against something that is realistic. It's like, here's what it's supposed to be. Here's the what if. Here's the magical formula. But like, here's what's actually happening, and it doesn't make any sense against any of this.
We're desperate to get back to a study of economics and a planning of economies that is based on what reality is, not just what it's supposed to be, not the speculations. That's why it seems also fake and phony to like the layman who isn't running around with a ton of money to be playing in these arenas, because it essentially is fake. It's based on nothing. The stock market does go up and down based on just vibes for the most part. If you get in like commodities trading, you might be able to. Anyway, I'm teeing this up here. You may have seen this chart. We have We have and they're called they're reciprocal tariffs because they're not just tariffs. Because the claim is that all of these countries are being very, very unfair to the United States. We can even start out with, and you'll notice it's usually the poor. It's funny, Oman's gonna break this thing I'm about to say right now. It's usually the poorest countries, the ones that you're like, what country is that? There's one in here. Oh yeah, Lesotho. I'm like, I have literally never heard of Lesotho. I have no idea where it is.
Where the hell is it?
It must be an island. Like, I've never heard of Lesotho in my life, but it has 99% is what they're claiming. They tariff us 99%, and we're only going to do 50. But
I doubt it. But did they cite any actual, like, real life
that's what
facts for this, or did they just make up the numbers?
I wanted, because the numbers can appear to be just made up because they are, but I want to talk about the rationalization as to how like it's. I don't know if the people making these calls just don't understand it, or if they do understand it and are like using the language deceitfully. It doesn't actually matter what their intent is because the effect is the same.
Right.
So, what is a tariff? Okay. The only way that countries make any money, you can, if you internally or just have your own internal U.S. market where it's like a U.S. person sells to another person, and all of the economic activity stays restricted to domestically, like domestic economic activity. That doesn't actually make your country richer or poorer in the conventional sense, because how do you get money? Well, you can get to money. You have to get, like, you can't create or destroy matter in the closed system, so you have to trade with other with external economies to either bring in or send out money. The way that your country becomes, quote, rich is by selling a whole ton of stuff, more so than you are buying stuff. It's like any business. If you're making more sales than purchases, your bottom line is going up. The U.S. became an extremely powerful country after the World Wars, when most of the world could not make stuff, so we made everything, and then we sold and sold and sold. We were the center of the world economy, of world production, for a real long time. And then over time, because of just how the world works, these things can't go on indefinitely. Like, as we develop, now suddenly the price of American labor goes up with it, because we have like a higher standard of living, and American labor becomes it's more sophisticated, which is the real reason it becomes more expensive, is that our productivity and quality of our products got higher and higher, so it became more and more expensive. And then eventually it becomes too expensive, so you start offshoring. You get your NAFTA's the biggest, most recent one, where it's like, let's take these cars that used to be made entirely within the U.S., spread it around. We eventually get these extremely spread out supply chains you hear about, where just to make the shirt that you're wearing, well, the cotton came from this country, which then gets sent to that country to be dyed, because that's where they have the pigment, then gets sent to this third country to then be processed into a thing, and then this fourth country to then move, then it comes back to the U.S. to be put in a store. Like, you know what I mean? How no item in your house, most likely, was, unless you have like a piece of wood from a tree in your backyard, it's all from multiple different source countries. You get this very complicated global supply chain that you do. Or do they do it just because they love these other countries? No, they do it because they want to keep prices down. If it costs half a cent less to dye this shirt on the other side of the world, they will ship it to the other side of the world to do that, because your incentive is to keep your overhead costs at an absolute minimum. So over
and take
time,
advantage of disadvantaged countries, especially because you essentially can use these light labor laws and employ slave labor.
Exactly.
That was like the main thing. Like, what do you mean other countries still have slaves and we can use them? So that's, a lot of these corporations just, the dollar signs in front of their eyes.
And you even notice which country your stuff, like just talking about clothing, like where my clothing is manufactured has changed through my lifetime. When I was a lot younger, it would say made in China, then it would say made in Vietnam. Now it usually says like made in Indonesia. I'll occasionally get an African country, but it's as these countries develop, like Vietnam is making less. Their quality of their production is getting higher. Their labor is getting more expensive. The quality of their products is getting higher. So the kind of commodities you're making ends up changing because of how the world economy is. Personally, I think you should have some kind of freaking domestic production. I don't think any job should be a, quote, slave labor job. If you have a job that is so horrible that it's beneath human activity and it sucks that bad, either automate it or you gotta figure out a way to improve conditions. There is no reason that you can't have a perfectly nice job working in a freaking textile factory in the U.S. We're gonna need fabric and clothing here. And in terms of efficiency and like power usage, etc., it is more efficient to not ship my shirt around the world 6 times before it gets back to me in its current state. than to just do it all within a country. The only cost that goes up in that process is labor. And hey, guess what? Automation, et cetera, fourth industrial revolution, blah, blah, blah. So these two numbers, like there is a point to me saying all these things. So now, if everyone else is making our products and we are then buying them back, we are no longer the exporter country of the World War II era. We are now an importer country where we get stuff from other people. And the crazy part about that is it's probably going to be like an American company you're buying from. So you have to take your American money to buy an American product from Japan, China, Indonesia, etc. That then is sold to you by like another American company middleman. Like you go to the America store to buy the America shirt, which was made by 7,000 different pairs of hands around the world. So now we are importing a lot of stuff. When you hear about these trade imbalances, we have trade deficits, etc., that means that we are buying more stuff from that country than we are selling to that country. So now the whole poor country thing starts making a lot of sense. Would it make sense that we're buying more shit from Algeria than we are selling to Algeria? Because I assume the average Algerian probably isn't like swimming in money buying very expensive American products. The second question being, what are American products? Because we don't actually make anything. 80%, oh my goodness. Mauritius, that's got to be an island. 80%. So the reason these numbers are higher when they say the tariffs charged to the U.S., including currency manipulation and trade barriers, the way they get to this really high number is they take some of the number from the trade deficit that I just described, where it's like, oh, if you as a country are not buying American products, that must be because you're intentionally you're boycotting America and you're trying to fuck over the American economy by intentionally not buying American products, which of course is ridiculous on its face. And then you have the currency manipulation they'll mention. When especially poorer countries actually get some money, you have the options to like invest that in your own nation, which could have the side effect of raising the value of your local currency. So I know that Algeria probably does not use Algeria bucks, but if Algeria is suddenly doing a ton of exports and oh my god, we're taking in all this money, and they're usually, because the world is overrun by the dollar, how are they probably getting that money? It's probably in the form of US dollars. So you have an option. Do you like take those US dollars and like sell them and fuck around, get it into your local currency, which can raise the value of your local currency, which sounds like a good thing, but it's actually bad for America because then we can't buy as much of your stuff because now your money's worth more, so now your products are more expensive. So what they will instead do is buy, because it's like, well, we're already in dollars, may as well just buy some U.S. Treasury bonds. So we can just keep that money invested in dollar, our currency won't change, and then we can keep all this shit balanced out. Also, it's not that countries are deciding to do this. They were ordered and made to by like the fucking IMF and the World Bank, and these are all fucking contractual deals that we forced people into signing, and now in 2025 we're like, how dare you?
Right? And I think that's probably a lot of the pushback against the BRICS alliance having to do with that, trying to go off the US dollar and work with each other outside of the US domineering everything around the entire planet.
Remember we're talking about frickin' how food aid can actually intentionally hurts economies, local food production, because now they have your food. Well, guess what? We're over here and like, oh, Guyana, hey, it's 1960 and you need money after the whole world got destroyed, or 1950, I should say. Well, we're going to give you a loan, but to get that loan through the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, you're first going to have to sign this piece of paper that says that you're going to start buying all of your food from us. And now it's been several decades, and Guyana, I don't know if this is specifically Guyana, this is frickin' hypotheticals, this is just kind of how it works around the world, though. Oh, cool, now you have no domestic food production, because we destroyed that by flooding your market with subsidized American crops to keep our own food prices high, so our own American agricultural sector doesn't completely collapse. And now, Guyana, it's 2025, and we've been doing that for years and years, and now you buy way more stuff from us than you sell to us, and what's wrong with you, Guyana? Why don't you have your own production? Why are you taking advantage of us by keeping your currency low by investing in U.S. Treasury bonds like we forced you to do based on fucking setups back in the day? And if you tried to elect somebody who didn't want to do that, we'd have them killed. How dare you, Guyana? How dare you, Vietnam? How dare you, Bolivia?
You get Gaddafi pretty quick when you start to try to create your own, you stand on your own 2 feet.
How dare
And then
you,
it
Libya?
also... Right. It really feeds into the propaganda that we're fed as Americans, that we're helping these countries. They can't stand on their own 2 feet. They have no economy. They don't do anything. If it wasn't for us, they would just completely collapse. Neglecting the idea that we put them in that position. They're in a precarious position to have to do everything that we say and jump when we say jump, because they have been put, signing these agreements because they had no choice decades ago, that put them in a position to where that they are beholden to us, but they conveniently leave that part out of the narrative.
So the goal with the tariffs,
just a large sigh.
I'm saying you're just correct. The goal with tariffs is to make foreign products so expensive that you don't buy them, and then you buy domestic products. And they've been going around for a long time. Tariffs are kind of contributed to why World War I even happened in the first place. Blah blah blah. But the goal, the rational kernel in all of this, look at this oh, this is just purely just stupid and wrong. It's self-destruction of our economy. It's well, if American production, domestic production, we should make things here. There is no reason why America should be the one country in the world that doesn't make anything. Imagine we end up in some kind of conflict or some kind of world disaster, or something happens that interrupts supply chains. Maybe we could shorten some of those supply chains. Maybe some of the things could actually stay here in the U.S. Maybe instead of exporting our crops around the world to force down international prices, to force up American prices, to do all the stuff I was just talking about, maybe we could stop doing that. Everybody could start growing their own food, observe some national sovereignty amongst world nations, and stop doing this empire shit.
Yeah, reinvest in our farmers that are constantly being strangled out of their generations of production. It really puts America in a very precarious position because we don't have anything. There's nothing here.
People are looking around saying, how are we going to get blah, blah, blah? And you're right. Maybe we should open a dang factory and hire some people.
And you all know about you've at least heard about the factory towns, these towns that ultimately just turned into ghost towns or nothing anymore. I mean, Detroit is really in a resurgence, but what happened to Detroit, places like Detroit or Gary, Indiana, was they were really, really big manufacturing places up to the point of where all of these people were employed, and all of these different factories in a whole city, and they grow and grow and grow and do really, really great.
That's Cleveland. That's freaking Buffalo. That's when the Rust Belt is those cities. It is
and even just these tiny ones you've never even heard of, that they all just worked at the local 7-Up factory or something.
Youngstown, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, right. So that they had this really robust system that really worked. Not to say that it was perfect, because you end up with company housing and company stores and things like that. So you end up in debt to the company. So those things, in a lot of the cases, were used to take advantage of local people. However,
it's an economy that's actually based on something. It's not an economy that's just fucking
Yeah, were that here today and well regulated, it would be a good thing, and then when you talk about Amazon trying to bring back company housing and things like that, no, don't do those things. But the idea of it is good, and it was good, and it was very prosperous for the United States for a while. And then once the outsourcing began, we know about, we lost all of our jobs, our town flew away in the wind, and now there's nothing here left. And
which was NAFTA. That's when we opened up for exporting. What is it? Offshoring. That's the word. That's when suddenly your job just got to move to Canada, and not because they hate America, blah, blah. It's for empire reasons. It's because it's a little bit cheaper, and you can treat workers a little bit worse. If you work across the planet for some other random company, it's a lot easier to have, we had no idea it was happening over in this random country, where your human rights abuses start getting out of control.
And it's not just America that does this. I mean, the UK has followed in lockstep. They also have this kind of issue, and I hate to cite this person because he's one of the most asshole ogre idiots that exists. But there is a show that Jeremy Clarkson of Top Gear fame hosts, and like I said, he's a total shitbag. But what he has managed to prove is he's got a farming show where he purchased a farm, and he's trying to show how he can be, how farming doesn't work, and that he continually is in this massive deficit, no matter the fact that he's got this really good guy that runs his farm and does all this work for him. I mean, they're doing everything right, and his neighborhood or his local area hates him, and for good reason. He's an asshole. But like anytime he tries to do anything, they stop him. Then there's all these regulations that are stopping him, and it's sort of that they're showing that even in the UK, which is a reflection of America too, and I don't know, probably a lot of other developed countries, they are being pushed out of farming. Just in any which way. It's almost like the nickel and diming type of a thing. Like they're going to figure out how to ruin your ability to produce and make money, because that messes up the international trade ability to do. So that's a real life example. You can watch him continually fail, and it's like on one hand where you like to watch him fail because he's an asshole, there's that, but at the other hand there's a much bigger story there about why, and you can watch it in real time happening, and it's a very entertaining show, unfortunately, but it also does answer that question about like why okay, we're hearing farms are going under, farmers are constantly saying help us, help us, help us. There was Farm Aid, like the Farm Aid concerts starting in the 80s.
These are in the countries where they are heavily subsidized.
Yes.
These are in the countries where U.S. farmers are paid to grow nothing.
Right.
And it's not that they're paid and they're living in luxury like you're describing. They have horrible lives in general. Like on a farmer-to-farmer basis, it's one of the highest suicide rates of any profession.
And just very physically difficult work. Physically difficult. You're constantly coming out at a deficit. There are all these little teeny tiny rules and regulations. The government will decide yes or no. Are you going to succeed this week? This month, this year. You're always operating, at a net zero or net negative. And people, they just can't stand it after a while, because it's like the hardest working group of people probably in any country, really. And then they are put in a position where they have no way to even support themselves on a basic level. And then let's not even talk about the perpetual ecological disasters that are going on. And then, the government just kind of stands around and rubs their hands together for that. Like, oh, they got wiped out. Too bad. I guess we gotta let Bayer come in, because they purchased Monsanto, by the way, and people are a lot more comfortable with the Bayer aspirin moniker than they are the Monsanto. But let's let them come in there and purchase your farmland, and then people don't also realize that Bill Gates is one of the foremost farmland owning persons in this country.
A really rich guy who believes in overpopulation wants to control the food supply.
Yeah, exactly. And then he's just recently come out sitting there saying, oh, a couple of years, there won't even be a human workforce. It's done with. He's not saying that for charitable reasons, guys. There's nothing after that. He's saying you all die out and we let the robots give us money. Yeah.
There's billions must die automation, and there's billions must go on vacation automation. And I'm very much in the thing of a go to your kid's recital, because the reason farming is so broken, especially here, like you hear a lot about frickin' Soviet Union and the collective farming movement that was at the beginning of it. A lot of people will decry, the word the phrase industrial farming has taken on a bad rap, because the reason that we can have the size of population that we have now is because of what we would consider industrial farming. Part of the issues in the United States and all of the many things you can point out about former Monsanto, now Bayer, and their the soil degradation and the chemicals and the blah blah blah. That's because their factory farming is entirely geared within the capitalist mode. It is geared entirely towards profit. This is really an industry that agriculture only works in the modern setting, in the modern context, if it is not state run, but you know what I mean, nationalized. It has to be done for the benefit of the country. Because individual farmers who are trying to just make money on the market, it's nearly impossible. Unless you are the ultra mega corp, and even the ultra mega corp, they have their few big farmers who then are actually doing the work. There isn't the luxury farmer out there doing it.
Well, you're seeing this kind of rise of the little hobbyist farmer who might have the farm stand or sell to local restaurants and local hospitals and stuff. Those guys are kind of getting somewhere, but they're kind of a different breed, is what we're really saying here. They're not like
farming,
factory farm, exactly.
Yeah. Because what you need to feed 300, 400 million people here in the U.S. are factory farms, and I think they would look very, very different if they were instead built on, on serving the purposes of human need than on trying to like eke out a percentage. Because that's crazy. Because like we just talked about, pretending that agriculture is on the market at all is kind of nonsense. It's not. We have a very much planned, structured agricultural thing that we do with the whole world. We know exactly where all of our freaking wheat, corn, soy, etc. is going. You know how much we're going to need, and we know how much that we're going to go put in a silo somewhere in the middle of nowhere and allow to rot.
Yes.
If you haven't heard about the cheese caves, that's where we took a bunch of cheese to keep the price of cheese and dairy farm stuff up, back in the World War II era. Because you can't be like, sorry, dude, we have too much milk, so now your milk is literally worthless. Your market rate is 0.0 cents, or it would cost us money to take it from you, blah, blah, blah. No, instead, the government just bought all this cheese at the whatever rate, put it in a cave. That's what happened. It sounds like I'm making shit up. That's very much verifiable. I don't know if you can go visit the cheese caves, but that's a thing we do. That's the way that the capitalist mode can continue to keep its prices high. And I hope it's clear to people how this like fits into the tariffs, et cetera, et cetera. Like, we fuck up world economies by trying to keep our prices up with our form of like protectionism, which is also how we got everybody to use the dollar, because suddenly, oh shit, you want food? Start working in dollars. And then here at home, farming is no longer a viable job. Like, these lead directly to one another. The U.S. and the CIA, USAID, all those fuckers want to destabilize food supplies across most of Africa, most of South America, etc. And then that leads directly to Billy working around the corner from you kills himself because it is impossible to make money dairy farming.
It almost tells the story of the AI and automation thing that we're looking at happening in this new revolution of technology coming, because you can see that. You can see the origins of that. They took away everything, but then there was nothing left behind. There were no safety nets. There was no support, no way to support yourself, no way to keep living. It just was like, go fuck yourself, the end. You were a victim of economy. And that's really what we're looking at. We are really on the cusp of that being. Bill Gates is right. Okay, he's right. It's coming, and I've been tambourine shaking about this for forever. That's what I got started doing this about, because I was like, guys, seriously, it is coming for your jobs. I don't need the tinfoil helmet. It's for real. It's really happening. It's coming. I've been priced out of 2 industries because of this already. Like, what am I supposed to go like put a bunch of money? I'm sure they'd love this. Put a bunch of money into an education that again it'll come for do something else. Like, you can't go into IT. IT is done, basically done. Coding is done. Like everything is essentially now in a hostage situation, but it's just going to be a much bigger, because farming was a percentage of the population over time. Didn't really speak for everybody, but now
it used to be like more than half the country was involved in agriculture, and that was it.
Yes.
Like back in the 60s, 50s.
But now we're looking at something that's going to like literally stop up the flow of like all human working, which again, it should. If a robot can do your job, it should be able to do your job. And you shouldn't have to. But that in response of that, these corporations looking for infinite growth need to be charged out the ass for robot tax in what they're doing to the environment, to pay for the stuff that they're just raking in raw profit on, and then they won't be. We're on the cusp of a really major crisis here, and we're just kind of living day by day at this point, because it's going to happen. Something major is going to happen where a massive swath of people are out of the workforce. It's already happening in like fast food industries. If you think, oh well, there are things that are like that can't only people can do. Well, like what, like hairdressing? Like there's very few things. A makeup artist, there's very few things.
It's like blue collar heavy industry. It's like the dudes running the trains because they would automate that shit tomorrow if they figured that they could. Welders, like HVAC.
Any technological job,
kids.
Any that a computer can do, like automation can do.
Middle management. I'm really excited to have no jobs. I'm extremely excited for every C something O to be out, baby. A CEO job. Remember, the CEO cannot legally do things that would hurt the stockholders. Who is better at doing a mindlessly and with no regard for anything drive forward to stockholder benefit than like Skynet. Skynet is perfect for that shit. They've been trying to make them into soul to fully remove the human soul so they can get out there and fire people and ruin people's lives for the bottom line. They've been working on that for decades.
Yep.
And now we can just have a machine do it. That's perfect. I'm very sorry, CEOs. Your jobs are very automatable.
And yeah, in some cases you're like, haha, I want that. And actually, we should be in a part where we're like, this legislation and this the protections and UBIs and healthcare and stuff, that should already be happening just in like a normal, sane world, so that we can comfortably usher this era in. And that's what, here we go, China. That's what China is doing.
China does.
They're light years ahead of us in AI, and they could do it more economically efficiently. And they are now starting to teach in schools. It is now part of like the curriculum in some ways about how it works, what to do with it, how it's going to do things. But it's because they live in a socialized society that is going to keep them, their heads above water, make sure that they benefit in some way from this, such as maybe, we've cited before the Alaskan oil dividend. Everybody in Alaska gets a little bit of money for allowing, the companies to pump the oil out. And if it was looked at like that, then we would know, like, oh, it's okay. If I lose my job, I'll be fine. Everything's fine. Go ahead and automate. Sounds great. I don't want to do something a robot should do. I shouldn't be chained to my desk for 40 hours plus a week, just trying to survive. But we already know we're in like a horrible job recession. We're in the minimum wage hasn't been raised in like 20 years. It would be something like $30-some now if minimum wage was tied to inflation, and that's where we ultimately are. We're really facing a major crisis here that people just really don't understand the breadth of, and and also tariffs. I know we were talking
these things
about
are entirely.
tariffs.
These are absolutely related. Like this just that's why any of this even matters. I do want to I guess center ourselves on what's actually happening today. So
Yes.
let me so the result of this, this is like me not stating because everybody knows, like the result of the tariffs finally going in. I think, like, have they actually happened, or is it? But according to Trump, they're in now, and the next day the stock market had a big fun time with it, which is weird to me because the stock market's supposed to go crazy based on unpredictability, right? Like, we don't know what's going to happen, so the stock market's like, whoa, uncertainty. This seems very certain. This seems like Trump's being like, here is exactly what's going to happen. You think they wouldn't all freak out like this, but they lost, like, headlines that I enjoy. It was one that's like, the richest 500 people in America just lost $2 quadrillion brillion, and I'm like, fucking, all right.
But typically, like, depressions are like pretty huge upward transfers of wealth.
That's the
So
thing.
they
Look at
might,
this headline.
yeah.
Off to major bounce back from their tariff to, like, they're gonna be fine, everybody.
The billionaires are gonna be fine.
Don't worry, everyone's gonna be, well, some of us are gonna be okay.
The rest of you will die in the streets,
I don't know.
in Walking Dead style. But the billionaires are gonna be great. So don't even worry about that.
So we got, after markets plunged over the course of the past 3 trading sessions, so that'd be, I guess, Thursday, Friday, Monday? Wall Street investors were looking for any excuse to catch their breath ahead of another planned tariff escalation at midnight. Oh, they're still going. They seem to have found one, at least for now. Cheap stocks and hope for signs of... yeah, guess what's going to happen, everybody? The price goes down, the rich people buy it really cheap, and they stay rich, and the number goes back up. U.S. stocks were higher Tuesday, setting the stage for a rebound. The Dow was up 930 points, or 2.45% in midday trading. The broader S&P 500 gained 2.3%. The tech-heavy NASDAQ composite rose 2.5%. Over the course of the past few days, stock prices got absolutely hammered as Wall Street grew fearful that the tariff policy would plunge the U.S. and global economies into recession. We've been in recession, everybody. But after 3 days of market carnage, investors... I wish there was literal market carnage. I wish people were out there with swords. Investors appeared to be seeking some buying opportunities. The price-to-earnings ratio of the S&P 500 companies closed below 17 Monday, historically cheap, giving investors a chance to scoop up stocks they believe might be oversold. This is a very normal action, very technical in nature after a shock period, said Truist's Keith Lerner. The market is extremely oversold and markets don't move in a linear fashion. Lerner noted that historic market rebounds tend to be clustered in with massive declines, as investors with FOMO worry they could miss out on a rally. In a period of uncertainty, each bit of new information is over-extrapolated, which leads to wider than normal swings, Lerner added. I love reading about, like, anytime you can read, I'm not even reading anymore, you guys understand, but, like, anytime you're reading, like, economics spoken by economics people to other economics people, all, again, within the Western Chicago School of Economics, the whole, like, it's not supposed to be like this, so I think it's going to be like, because, again, they're thinking of their imaginary perfect model, so that the only reason I harp on that is it gives some explanation as to why whenever you listen to economists speak, it just sounds like they're talking, like, about, I don't know, the rules to Magic the Gathering, or frickin' the lore of Final Fantasy Legend 2, or, like, shit that doesn't seem relevant to what we're going on about.
For real, yeah.
It's like they seem like they're in a different weird world. That's why they're talking about the fantasy that is the balanced economy of capitalism, or whatever, I don't know, whatever they think it's supposed to be. Like, oh, it's always wrong. We're just achieving perfection. We'll never reach perfection, but we'll work toward it. Feels religious. It feels like a...
Well, we're also seeing that Trump is trying to, and his supporters and the people who agree that this is a good idea are using this as a means to fleece the public into thinking like, okay, well, you'll just buy American products. First of all, America produces very little, like we've talked about. But okay, let's say something like, we always use the eggs as an example, right? So like anything that literally is domestically produced, there is nothing to stop any of them from jacking their prices up as well to, equal out what, what you would buy for something that came from Canada, for instance. And there's nothing to stop them from doing that. So where we were living in a place where, groceries and everyday items had already become very unaffordable for most people. And then we have, Doge and all that, those idiots, messing around with, benefits and food stamps and things like this, and different programs that would normally help people afford these things. Now we're going even further with it, and they want you to believe that, like, oh no, you could just buy American, it'll be fine. There's nothing there's no safety net there. That's not like oh, okay, I'll just buy American. Well, your American bananas and your American coffee, and like those aren't things that you can get from here. And even if you could, nothing stops them from raising their own prices to match. So we were already unable in a very economically unstable place when it comes to just like living and consuming. And if you saw that weird groceries, did you see that? Like, it was Trump,
No.
and he was like, groceries is an old word, and it was just like he was just so off, like groceries like, and it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Sometimes he's just so out of it, it's just like, what the hell are you talking about?
That is one sector that has literally no reason, because as we've just been going over for the last like 40 minutes here, America makes so much food that we have to burn some of it. America makes so much food that we export it around the world for basically weaponized purposes to force countries into buying stuff from us and like further enmeshing themselves with our system. There is no reason that our food could not be so cheap it's comical. And I think it'd be really funny if we, like, in next year, it's like, well, a video game is $600, but eggs are a nickel. Like,
Yeah.
Like, it's literally, we have so much food. And as you're hearing that, hopefully you had the same, like, rage that I do. It's like, there's people starving in America, and we have so much food that we're sending it around the world to fuck with them. We have so much food that we're using it as a tool. And yeah, that's how you start reading these books and talking like me.
Yes. And you get there because, like, you realize, like, America is a sham.
That's a Martin Luther King thing. He's like, only in America is there so much food that people are starving. There's so much housing that people live on the streets. There's so much water that people, like, and that's what it is. That's what the system is. There's too much food, which is why we can't have food. We have to go burn it. we have too much food for it to be profitable, so we have to bury it in a cave, in the case of the cheese, which is a real thing, I will reiterate.
Yes. We have checking into the chat. Are You a Time Traveler 2 mentions that they were at a Kroger Sunday and there were no bananas or fresh vegetables. That's also going to happen. They're barely going to import things because they don't want to take a loss of people not buying them. Now, like, it's like, okay, the bananas are like $200 for a bunch. Like, well, okay, we stocked like 10 things bananas, now they're gone because we weren't willing to take the hit on it. Zoo_D says socialism doesn't work because people gravitate towards racism when they aren't enslaved by money. Thoughts?
Racism is a thing made
I
up by
think
the
the
ruling
exact
class to get us to
opposite
fight each
is
other.
true. As a matter of fact, I think that, and we discussed this in our last episode, when you are put in a social scenario where you find that there are less things to be divided about, and that, you know, generally we're set circling and running in circles, chasing our tails about, oh, well, the immigrants are taking your jobs. Oh, well, you can't have healthcare because all these illegal people get it instead. Oh, well, you can't have food stamps because there's no food, because there's none left, because all these illegal people stole it.
Because
Like,
the
that's the
welfare
new
queen
argument,
ate it or
right?
whatever. 'Cause
Yeah, well,
Stalin
you
took his
get
big
that's the whole
spoon.
point. It's always been about, like, you know, it's always been the rich people telling the white man the black man is taking their job, or the immigrants are stealing all the resources. That's why you can't have health care. Or it's always something to that degree. Always take a group of marginalized poor people and then take a group of even more marginalized and poor people and say, there's your reason right there, blame them. Works perfectly. It has always worked, but that is in a capitalized society. Can you do that? If you live in a socialized society where you are more exposed to your neighbors and you are on a more even playing field, you have less to argue about. So socialism does work. The reason it looks like it doesn't work is because capitalist countries have been quashing it for generations so that you wouldn't realize, or the word wouldn't get out. Why do you think right now everybody is China, China, China? Why suddenly is everybody talking about China in a positive way? Years and years and years went by when nobody would talk about China in a positive way. And you would say, if you said communism, that was a dirty word, and all these things. But now we're seeing influencers go over there and be like, look at the lights, guys. You know, it's literally that simple. When you have a nice society and everyone has a stake in it and everyone is on, you still have rich and poor people, but you don't have despondent, desperate, dying people because of someone else is allowed to hoard resources. You know what happens in China when you hoard resources? Anyone? So, and that's what we need here. So the fact of the matter is, yes, there can still be wealth. Yes, there can still be more. This guy over here is more wealthy than this guy over here, but this guy over here is also living a really decent life and not starving and getting to do whatever he wants to do at the same time as this guy with all the money. So that takes away, to answer your question, that takes away the divisions, the imaginary divisions among people. So socialism tends away from racism, whereas in isms, whereas capitalism fans those flames in order to continue to grow. Thoughts, Jared?
Yeah, it's in general a lot of the bigotries that because I mean obviously I would prefer if we lived in a world with less social friction, with less bigotry, but historically the way that you get to that kind of society is through development programs. If you look at we're always using China as an example, but it's if you look throughout history, when do the divisions based on competition and scarcity melt away? Well, when the competition and scarcity is alleviated, and from there is a vested interest in the ruling class that instead of coming on the battlefield of class conflict and actually having an honest and open conflict and like let's solve some contradictions. Instead, like you said earlier, the contradictions are attributed to people of other groups to try and distract you from where they actually come from. It is a lot easier to control a population if they think that they themselves, each other, your neighbors are the issue. If they think that your neighbors are the people really keeping us from getting somewhere, but they aren't. I was about to say unfortunately because it would almost be easier. Like if somebody being a dick was the reason that people don't have food and housing, blah blah. That's great because we can just go get that guy.
Right,
But
exactly.
that isn't what it is, unfortunately.
No,
It's not that easy.
it thrives. The capitalistic system thrives on pitting people against each other. So it's saying like, oh, this poor group of poor people. Well, it's this group of poorer people who are your real problem, and
Actually,
they don't.
Freaking Nathan in the chat just phrased it in a way that I like a lot, where currently bigotry has a function, and the function is not actually like the function they think it is. Like if you hate gay people, the function of hating gay people isn't to actually eliminate gay people, which is like an impossibility and a silly thing. The function is to keep us fighting each other. Once there is no function for racism, for sexism, etc., which has the functions we just identified, it starts melting away because there's no point for it. Like, remember, everybody used to hate left-handed people. What the function of that? The weird church shit like melted away, and now suddenly nobody gives a shit about that anymore.
Yeah,
Not
no, you know the reality. That's true, and the reality of it is that is so recent in history, because I'm left-handed, my grandmother was left-handed, and when she was in school, they would literally hit her across the knuckles to try to force her into writing with her right hand, which messed her up cognitively for the whole rest of her life. That was my grandmother in life. So that was all this, you know, that's a very small area of time when you're looking at the span of time. So that's exactly right. Like, we have come a very long way between. That is an excellent example from where people gave a shit to where it couldn't matter less. So
because there was some kind of function, there was some kind of usefulness of like, okay, we have to establish an out group because there's not enough stuff, so we have to justify why some people get stuff and some people don't. In group, out group, blah blah blah, etc. But and through human history, that served a function, I guess. Well, someone has to starve. Let's do it to him and make up an excuse. Oh no, we just invented racism.
Yeah, and that exactly that, and that was usually tied to race. To go back to the original
race or
it says
tribe.
I'm left-handed. All right, high five. Yeah, that does go back to the original question posed by Zoo_Z. That does this. What is the connection here? And the connection is like, if there's nothing to fight about, there's nothing to fight about. It's very simple.
It hasn't been for so long. We haven't had true scarcity since like the 40s. Like, we just have enough stuff now. We really do.
But we allow capitalism to drive the car of this and of existence, and it has driven us into the ground. And we really, as a society in America, could not be at a lower point, a lower ebb, because there's no reason we shouldn't be. There was a time when it was sort of, I don't want to say space race in the traditional term, but it was sort of this concept of space race of, oh, America's got to beat China. We got to be number one, USA number one. And that mentality, that post-war mentality went on, you know, very well. Like, we all have to be number one in where we are and what we're doing. But that just very much faded when the people at the top and the government realized they could collude to serve their own interests. And now that's why we have these staggering class differences. And if you think that we're not well on our way to personal people being trillionaires, you're crazy, because that is the next step in this. And while we're all doing Walking Dead in the streets, they're going to be, you know, taking guesses on how many people they're going to get to see kill each other that day. So we're a few months already out from them starting to hunt us for sport at this point. So you know what, this is not going to go well. This is not going to continue to work well. And again, if you are a millennial, you're born in the 80s, 90s, your entire life has been like this, thanks to the Reagan administration, most especially. And this particular administration is really trying to pick up that torch and run with it, with the trying to limit government down to the point of it becoming a monarchy, and doing all the anti-DEI stuff that plays right into what we were just talking about, turning people against each other as best as possible. You know, a whole new generation of that is going on. So that's ultimately where we end up. And the economy is based on all of that. The economy is like the economy is a social construct, because again, we talked about the fact that it kind of operates on an imaginary scale. But if we didn't have these conflicts, if we didn't have these issues, if we didn't have people literally, you know, scraping the resources of the government down for their personal gain, then we wouldn't be dealing with this, because nobody would have these issues. We wouldn't be worried if there were billionaires or trillionaires. If I don't give a shit if there's a billionaire or a trillionaire if I've got mine, and I know my neighbor does too, and that there aren't people living in the street. Like literally a socialist, all we want is equity. We put in and put in and put in and put in and got less and less and less out of it. And the quality of our lives is so precarious now. Everybody's got to be living a life of survival, and nobody is thriving and nobody's happy. But I personally could care less if there were multi-quadrillionaires out there, so long as there was a baseline of health and safety and comfort, and people didn't have to live in survival mode.
Yeah. And eventually we're going to get there. Because, we have a lot to build, and the act of building the thing is how you get there. And
right.
it's just more, it's not like about my personal preferences, or it's just historically what works is what works. And we have the results of in the comments there's a suggestion of the idea of having leverage, essentially incentivizing behavior one way or the other. We've tried that, and it just doesn't freaking work. That's how you get your counter-revolution, is when you're you're going to sit down and learn this and it's some people are just going to be a little shitty till they die. The goal is to make it so the people who freaking hold on to backwards thinking don't have control over your life. Make it so they can't, oh, I don't have housing now. Why? Well, my landlord who owns my entire life doesn't like me.
Yes.
Those kind of power structures, those ownership issues, if those don't exist, you can render these forms of bigotry inert. They can become what they should be, the weird guy on the corner that people go, ugh, and you
it's
go on
the same with healthcare.
life.
Why people get stuck in abusive situations, relationships, because they can't afford to leave their insurance behind. They can't afford to live on their own. They have to stay at horrible jobs for the same reason, that they can't let their insurance go, if they've got medical conditions. And again, if you take away, it's not about incentivization. We can't be incentivized to do better if we're living like garbage. Everybody is trying their hardest to keep their head above water, and we have never been in a worse time, probably since pre-war times, and that is not working. So incentivization for a paycheck doesn't make you work harder. It doesn't make you do a better job for somebody else. You should be working for yourself while the robots do the jobs. You should be creating paper flowers and selling them all over the world, or whatever your passion is, because that's something you can do with your own human hands while the robots do the jobs that you don't need to do. So that's that's the thinking. It's not about, that's microcosmic thinking that somebody will do a good job if they're incentivized to do it. Don't think that way. Think in a much bigger way. Think in terms of abundance, just like Jared was talking about. We are put in a scarcity mindset from the time that we grow up, that, oh, there's not enough to go around. Well, if there was enough for everybody, socialism would be everywhere, and we would all have everything, and we live in a utopia of classless, stateless societies. At the same time, religious people are going, heaven is a classless, stateless society. Isn't it going to be wonderful? We can fucking have that now. We've got the resources, we've got the ability, we've got the know-how, yet the people at the top are using our government structure to further enrich them and themselves. In the capitalist system doesn't work unless you have people, literal people capital, turning the cogs of production. So if we didn't have to think in that term, and we didn't have these people with the leverage over this, we wouldn't have to think in this scarcity mindset that there's only a tiny bit to go around, or I would be happy if I just had a little bit more on my paycheck or a little bit left over on my paycheck at the end of the month. You don't have to think like that. We are so abundant, it's stupid. As he said, we throw food out, we burn shit. There are people that are farmers that are turn under perfectly good crops, because they're being paid to do it, or have some incentive to do it. That shouldn't be. That is the sign of a broken society. When you look at those videos of at the Dunkin' Donuts or whatever, when they're throwing out all the donuts, or they're at the grocery store and they're literally scraping perfectly good food off the shelves, and they're going to go fill a dumpster with it, or that when the dumpster gets full and people find the dumpster, that they're pouring bleach on it to make sure nobody can get food out of the dumpster, right? That is a broken society. That is what is abundance being turned into scarcity for profit. So that is where I think that we are, as far as that. And yes, and it does. We do have, you know, are kind of held hostage by very puritanical views on things, which is essentially what this country was established on. But don't believe it. That's part of the propaganda that they want you to believe. So that's the ultimate point, I think, there is if you think there's not enough to go around, you are believing what you're being told by the wrong people. People that want to harm you and people that want to use you.
Well, my guys, we're going to have a whole bunch of new, we'll see what stock market things, what flips happen
Yes.
in the next few weeks. I have no idea. The stock market, as we were kind of going over today, it's just going to be a lot of, like, the richest people just buy at a lower number and then are even richer at the end of it. A few people will get eliminated, and we'll get, like, wiped out. Basically, a few people will become class mobile, but downward. They will have to get a job, and I don't know. The dude is certainly not trying to build socialism in America, but if one was to go about it, the demolition of the stock market would be a part of that, and the reinvigoration of domestic production in America would be a part of that. But oh boy, this is definitely taking the harder mode, the harder route to get there, where there is probably going to be some upheaval and turmoil. I just have no idea where or to whom.
And it's hard to root for that, but we kind of we're in a position where we kind of have to. We didn't even get the opportunity to talk about these ridiculous liberal, the Liberal Party over the weekend, the hands off protests. We didn't, but to comment on that really quick, again, just like Cory Booker's filibuster, very empty gestures. We are not impressed. If Nancy Pelosi is at your protest, it is not a protest. And there were some demonstrations, some real, like, for Palestine demonstrations going on at the same time. But all that really was a liberal photo op, something to do on a Saturday afternoon. And if you looked at the graphic going around, it was they included NATO. In the Get Your Hands Off NATO. NATO is a fucking terrorist organization, part of, like, a big part of what we've talked about here today. I wish we would have had more time to talk about this, because there are a lot of very disingenuous podcasters were at this rally, talking and getting people going, and a lot of, you know, people like Nancy Pelosi and stuff who were really there for photo ops, but everybody was there for that reason. You know, they wanted, it was, you know, with their stupid asshole signs. If Kamala was president right now, we'd all be at brunch, which is basically just saying, use my tax money. Yeah,
which is saying I wouldn't give a shit if it wasn't this guy in office. That's how I take that sign.
No,
if it wasn't for being Trump, I wouldn't give a fuck.
Right, it's saying use my tax money to blow up kids in new and interesting ways, and take indigenous people's land, but don't get in the way of my good time. You know, so this is why
Trump has still not deported as many people as Biden.
Or Obama, and this is why we are a stateless group of people, because we are not Democrats, we are not liberals, we are not conservatives, we are not Republicans. We hate them all. That's how we ended up in this position, because we have no home, we have nowhere to gravitate towards, and we are not impressed by these guys that just want something to do on an afternoon and make a funny sign. This is just exactly the same as the pussy hat thing. It's just useless, dumb shit for people to pat themselves on the back about, and not actually have to get involved in anything, but get tons of really cute pictures for Instagram. You know, so that doesn't resonate with us. And it's not like we're at the top of the heap here of people listening to us and what we want. But again, like Jared said at the top of the hour, we're trying to do something that we would hope to hear when we were transitioning into this away from shitlibs. We were shitlibs, plain and simple. We started on, like, the worst part of it. Like,
I was a big Obama voter. I was talking about how sad I was I couldn't vote for him because I was 17.
Yeah, right. And I have in the past voted Republican, you know, because not recent past or anything, but I have a very checkered view on things, like, because, you know, I was listening to the wrong people, and I was restricted in a way, like, before podcasting really became a thing, restricted from hearing any other points of view other than the nightly news or whatever was going on. And I know that that's still the case with most people. They figure if it wasn't true, it wouldn't be on the news, and then they choose whichever flavor of news that they want to hear. But they're all state propaganda, and you have to go to people, individual people, to hear other takes on things, and that's what we are at least hoping that we're bringing to the table. Whether or not people are listening to it or not, then that's a big problem. Like, there is no organized left, there is no party. We don't agree on anything because we disagree with everything. So when we see things like look at this is democracy in motion. No, the fuck it isn't. This is people looking for photo opportunities. So we could go on all day about that, but I did want to mention it. We don't need to go on all day about it, but we could. But what we will do instead is we're gonna wrap this up, and I'm sure we'll have more great liberal bashing coming to you in the coming weeks. But that's the newest one. We just get very upset about people patting themselves on the back for doing nothing, and saying things like, we'd all be at brunch right now. Like, well, go fuck yourself. How about that? That's my sign. That's the sign that I would stand and chase that person around with. So thank you for joining us for another hour of our ranting and raving, and we do appreciate you. Thank you for your comments. We like to talk to you when we have the opportunity. And Jared has been trying to get us through an entire song of his new material. He's got a new album out, Songs to Pay for My Pool. How's that going, by the way?
The album's going fine. Like, I have made several sales. It's a really short album. Like, the whole point of it was to get it out quickly. And my pool is now, it's not fully finished, but it's finished enough that we can be in it. They still
all right.
It
worked.
They gotta paint the outdoor. They gotta paint the deck around the top of the pool, and they gotta, like, the skimmer bit has like the little piece of plastic that goes like when the water comes in, and it keeps all the leaves from coming back out. And that is not yet attached, but other than that, we're doing fine.
It's usable. Well, that's progress made. So excellent. Like, congratulations, buddy. I'm glad that your pool has been rescued.
I'm gonna hit play on this, and if it crashes, just end the show, because and then I'm fully giving up on ever playing MP3s through this. It's not even that like my computer's had a hard time. It's that the internet just crashes as soon as I hit play on this thing. We've been good today though, so maybe it'll be fine.
Yeah, we either one. If it's him, if it's not him, it's me. If it's not me, it's him. We have somebody, one of the last comments that Nathan said, I bought that album. Thank you, Nathan. Much appreciated. Glad to hear that. I hope you're enjoying it. It's great stuff. So we're going to hear a piece of that album now, hopefully. Every time we've tried this in the past, it hasn't worked. But if it doesn't work, we're just going to, close out the show. So we'll say goodbye here. Please enjoy. Thank you for joining us. And we will see you next week with whatever fresh hell is going on. So try to take care of yourself and each other, and keep it zen as best as you can. So bye, everybody. Enjoy the styling.
AI, their cars, machines are taking our jobs. Ain't the first time that I've been replaced. They chant, take news, they'll even start dating dudes if we don't plan to turn things around. Start beating them down. Get out of my face, take the robots away. I see Mose doing chores, and I won't scare him away. Got a tool to clean the pool, is that a Roomba kind of thing? I can see how it thrills you, it's killing me, falling apart, my love. How's this happen anymore? It's in my house, and I don't like it around. Come competition for orange and yellow feet. My God, it knows it's headed straight for his toes. That is my thing. As fast as you sneeze, touch those phalanges. You're out on the curb, gonna throw you away. If I ever were to catch you like I did the other day, with your hose on those toes, oh my Lord, you better pray. I can see how it thrills you. It's killing me, falling apart. My love, how's this happen anymore? You may sense that he's close. Turn to grapple his dawn. But if your lechery shows, then I must make you fight with the toaster I stole from the mall. Or I didn't mean to scare ya. I know that's a lot of smoke, but I won't be defeated by nasty robot hose. I can see how it thrills you. It's killing me,